Thursday, October 24th, and it's 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and welcome to another episode of Ask the Experts, where we interview industry experts to bring you knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb to help you take your business, help you take your agency to the next level. And I'm incredibly excited today about our guest, good friend and somebody that's absolutely crushing it in business and in life. We have here today, he's a farmer's agent out of Oklahoma that's built a $10 million agency under 3 years. That's right, just under 3 years, $10 million agency. Trained staff and agents around the country, earning multiple honors, is the Toppers Club member. Cole serves as a sales coach at the Michael Weaver Sales Academy and a broker at agencyforsale.com, and the co-founder of Farmers Mega Conference alongside Josiah. And he's a devoted father of two and passionate about helping other agents launch, improve, and build momentum. His expertise lies in remote training, in-office systems, processes, SOPs, and overall office organization. Let's welcome to the call today, Mr. Cole Caughern. Welcome to the call, my friend. It's great to have you on.
What's up, dude? How are you?
I'm doing well, man.
You're fine with these intros, man. Make me sound better than I am.
No, just spitting the truth. That's all, man. No, and kind of where I want to dive in, because I mean, what you've done has been nothing, short of impressive in the short period of time that you've done so, and now you're on to doing other things, other ventures. But I'd like to start on the insurance agency side. Obviously, we're going live into the Insurance Syndicate group right now. We're going to have some people watching the rerun, some people that are watching live, and want to dive into, what would you say were some of the most pivotal strategies or maybe moments that allowed you to scale up the way you did to a $10 million operation? Because there's so many people watching the call today. They're maybe sitting in a setback. They're maybe starting out first, or they're just stuck in that place of complacency and they're looking to get to the next level. And what can you share with the audience today of what were some core fundamentals that really allowed you to scale the way you did in such a short period of time?
Man, so one of the biggest things I would tell you is you've got to get rid of victim mentality, right? Because these carriers that we all work for, all been with, you're going to want to do things that'll help you grow your business, and they're going to tell you no, right? And it's so easy a lot of times for us to go, why me? Why me? Why me? Like, oh, they don't like me or blah, 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 right? And so I kind of ran into that when I first started, because all my friends are Allstate agencies owners, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my world is Allstate guys. And so I'm over here at Farmers, and I'm like, hey, I want to buy an agency. And they're like, oh, absolutely not. And I'm like, oh, well, why? And they're like, well, we just don't do that here. I'm like, okay, well, okay. And so Anyway, that threw me for a loop. It's like, well, that's a really good way to grow a business, is to acquire other businesses at the right multiples. It just makes sense. Well, anyway, I kept asking and I kept asking. Like, we don't do that. That doesn't happen here. And I was finally one day I asked, like, yeah, okay, do it. And I was like, awesome. But every time I'd ask, like, okay, what would be something that would get me closer to a yes? Right. Yep. Now we'd go try to knock that out. It's like, okay, I did what you asked me. Okay, what about now? No, we need this. Okay, let's go try to knock that out. And so, I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here because that sounds bad, but what I will say is, like, every time I got a no, I was like, okay, that's one step closer to a yes. I can't think of this as like, oh, woe is me. I have to think like, okay, they just want to see me do more before they'll give it to me. Let's go do it. And so being bold is a big part of this, and not being afraid to be bold and not being afraid to, look yourself in the mirror and say, what's going on? What am I doing? What am I not doing right? And how do I go chase that? That's a big deal.
No, I love that. And I mean, and that, what I hear there is just that level of persistence over and over again, not taking no for an answer, trying to turn that no into a yes. And I believe a no is only a no until you turn it into a yes. And I think you just got to figure out, hey, what is the strategic way to do that given your situation, right? Because I think there's always a path to do that. And there's always a solution to every single problem. And it sounds like you've been across your career in that short period of time, just really, really nimble in turning problems into solutions in both your agency and life.
Yeah, man. Like right now, our company really wants life insurance. And so I'm trying to convert my entire agency over to life insurance monsters, right? And we wrote more life insurance policies in the last 3 weeks than we wrote an entire year before. And,
Love it.
And it's like, that's what they want. That's what we need to chase. And if I'm being honest with you guys, it's stopping an acquisition for me right now. So I'm chasing the life insurance, trying to knock out
where your attention goes, energy flows, right? Like as soon as you locked your attention on it, what started to happen? You're writing more life insurance than you ever did before. And I think, there's something to be said about that too, because I think a lot of people and a lot of agency owners unintentionally will put their attention in some of the wrong places of their business, whether it's because they're wearing too many different hats as the leader and they're not being the leader inside of their business or agency. And then their team members will typically do as they do versus doing as they say. And when they see them doing it, it's basically translated to them that that's the most important thing. Yep. So that's what I like to call shadow of a leader, right? You got to be careful of the shadow that you're casting inside of your business, because before you know it, if your attention is the wrong place, you have an entire workforce, an entire team that is all following suit and put their attention into that place that can take you off the beaten path, that road to success that you're trying to find.
Yeah, man. Isn't owning a business such a delicate balance? I
mean, absolutely, man.
It's like walking a tightrope, dude, because you don't want everybody to hate you, but also you don't be a pushover. It's like, I want to focus on this all the time, but I also want you to know I care about you. And it's like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah. What's cool about it though too is once you get on the tightrope, you fall off a whole bunch of times though, but then you get pretty damn good at walking on the tightrope. Yeah. And then your problems that once used to be massively big problems because you became more competent and more skilled walking that tightrope, those problems are just kind of like a blip now. So when I think about the problems that I used to have in entrepreneurship, because I just leaned into everything, it just builds a different muscle, it builds a different competence in you, where like you can just freaking take on the world. So when I look at like when I started back 15 years ago to today, it's like a totally different transformation, just because we had to, just like you, embrace the uncomfortable. And when you live in that long enough that, you get pretty damn good at the uncomfortable.
Yeah, man. It's so funny what you adapt to, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, man. And then when it comes to that too, I think one of the things that are out there when I hear problems and having to adapt to change, we live in this new virtual world, right? I think COVID flipped the world upside down. Everybody wants to work virtual now. So it's really changed the game when it comes to how you got to go and get talent, how you got to run your operation. I'd be curious, how did you so effectively, I guess, adapt to change? And now you're one of the leaders out there that are running remote workforces, just like we do in our companies, and doing it very successfully. I guess, what would you have to say to the folks that are out there that are still struggling with that transition and they haven't quite figured it out, and they're trying to adapt to the new virtual world we live in and manage a remote workforce? What do you have to say to those business owners out there? Well,
I think, man, we as humans build stigmas up in our head without anybody gassing it up for us, don't we? I mean, we make things way worse in our mind than they actually are. But what kind of did it for me is I just kind of decided, like, okay, I'm going to try this with one and figure it out from there. And then I was like, oh crap, like I'm in small town Oklahoma. Talent is not the easiest thing to come by where I'm at. So I'm like, I got to have talent. And I don't really have the time or really the resources around me to develop them in my area. Yep. So I got to go to where they are. But a lot of it, man, is just jumping head first in and going. And I'll tell you, the big reason I did it is I got to looking at like, what does my business look like in the next 5 years? What's it look like in the next 10 years? What's it look like in the next 15 years, right? And I personally believe in the next 3 to 5 years, if you don't offer remote, you won't be able to get staff.
Yep.
If you do, they won't be good staff. And so what you run into there is like, okay, maybe I don't need remote people right now. But if the clock switches on me in 3 years from now, and I've been doing it a little bit and I know what I'm doing, I can turn it on and I keep going. Whereas what we oftentimes do is we're like, well, we ain't there yet, so I'm not going to worry about it. It's like, well, we aren't there yet. You're right. But when we are there, the people that have been taking advantage of this before we were there, they're light years ahead of you.
Oh yeah, they've been walking that tightrope for quite some time, and they're not falling off the rope with you. They're like doing backflips on it, and then you're still trying to figure out how to get your balance, and you just don't want to be in that place.
And what's so crazy, and you guys know this, most agents right now with the systems and stuff they use inside their office, they're already set up to be remote.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's just a little bit of tweaking.
It's just a body and a desk at that point. That's all it is. And it's like, bite the bullet and try. Now, if you're a huge city where you don't have to do that, that's a great thing. I didn't have that luxury. I had to work with what I had. And so that means, finding people in other states, maybe. That means finding people where I can, they don't have high income there. So if I come in and offer you a certain hourly rate, you're like, whoa, that's great money. There's things that work to my advantages there.
And I think, really what a lot of it's done too is magnified some of the already existing problems inside of businesses. So you go back to that thing, wearing many hats, right? I think a lot of business owners became business owners without learning some of the fundamentals to really be the leader at the helm of the business, right? And I think there's, somebody out there that they maybe had the person in there. There wasn't the level of training. There wasn't the culture that needs to be there. But because that person was still in a desk, it was able to fly a little bit. But when you take the lack of culture and then you don't have training, you don't have infrastructure, processes, SOPs, the whole nine, and then you got somebody off on an island somewhere in that ecosystem, I think that's where it really doesn't work. And that's where I'd like to dive in next, because I know one of your many skill sets in talents is driven around having processes and SOPs in place to scale. So tell us, what that looks like from a process and SOP standpoint, on how those were instrumental in helping you scale, I guess, a remote operation.
Man, yeah, such a great question, Dave. I'll tell you something. I worked for Halliburton, and I was in the oil field for a while. And when I started at Halliburton, they onboarded I think it was 200 people in a day.
Yep.
In the same room. And then they went and took us out on this pad and they trained us all in a day, right? And I didn't realize that I was immature at the time, and I didn't realize what was really happening. But I kind of took that and I was like, okay, now that I'm older and I'm a little more mature in my business, I'm like, if I can train one person, why don't I try to train 3 or 4 at the same time, right? But then you run into okay, there's only so much of me that I can go around. So how do I train 4 people at one time and still, keep my hair in my head, right? And so the number one thing I've done, and I'm not afraid to say it because I've said it a million times, is there's a website called loom.com, Loom, right? And I think it costs $10 a month. Anytime anyone asks me a question inside my agency on how to do something, I go shoot a video. It has my picture in the corner, has a picture of my screen, and you can follow with me step by step on how I do everything. Yep. So I went in and I built, okay, what's the first 10 things a new hire needs to have? That's the very first thing I did. So if I can train you on how to quote in our system, how to call out in our system, how to log a sale in our system, the most 10 important things, right?
Yep. I
can stack from there, right? Mm-hmm. So what I did is now anytime I hire people, I always hire in bulk. And I hire in bulk for a couple of reasons. Number one, the amount of no-call, no-shows is astronomical on the first day. If you hire 3 people, I promise you're not going to keep 3 people. You might keep one of them if you're lucky. But I do that. I do a 2-day onboarding with them where I basically go over insurance for dummies. And I used to do it 1 full day, but now I do 2 half days where, we're logged into all your systems and everything. I do it on Thursday, Friday. And then you come back on Monday. Here's a flash drive, or now we have a Google Drive because everybody's remote. Here's a Google Drive. Here's a syllabus on what to follow. You should have brought in 50 people to quote day 1. That's the standard inside our agency. Let me know when you get 5 quotes done. And I just kind of turn them loose. Here's my cell phone. Call me anytime. But I'm looking for things here. Number 1, can you teach yourself? Number 2, can you follow literally video instructions? I sent you a screen. I sent you a laptop. Throw me on one screen. Use the other screen to work on, and we're good to go. And it's over time. Now I have thousands of videos built because I've quit answering questions like, oh, Andy, you do it this way. So you know what, Andy? Go back to your desk. Give me 5 minutes. I shoot the video. I send it to the whole office. We index it. We put it in the syllabus. Now you can find it forever, and we have it forever.
No, I love that. So I love that. And what we're going to do is a gift for you for getting on the show today. We're going to, especially for what you're saying there, we're going to get you a free access membership for your agency into Jarvie. So we're grateful to have you coming on the show today. That allows you to put that training on autopilot with AI, so you can actually have AI do the role playing for you inside there. So you put your basically your training videos in there, and then it prompts them to live role play back into the platform to kind of supercharge those processes and SOPs for you.
Heck yeah, man! And funny you mentioned SOPs. We started me and my one of my secretaries, right? We do SOP Fridays. So we're building up an office Bible is what I'm calling it, right? So if there's a video on how to do something, we also have a paper that's a step-by-step on how to do it without looking at the video. And so I'm trying to take all the excuses and all the thinking and all the learning curves away from you. So all you have to do is like, okay, I know where to find information. Here's the information. Now I can go execute.
No, absolutely. I love that. Love that. And then going on to your role, I know you've been working with Mike Weaver as a sales coach over there, working with various different agencies. You have some that are just winning, knocking the cover off the ball, that are looking to take things to the next level, or you have some people that are maybe sitting in a setback and they're struggling. And, what my question would that be is, I believe success leaves clues, and so does, I guess, how do you say it? When you got somebody that's stuck in a setback, that kind of leaves clues of some things too. And I'd be curious, what are the most common things that you see that contribute to people just sitting in their setback? And then on the other side of it, what are some of the most common things that you see the theme of the folks that are in the winning circle? Because I think there's two different types of people. The people, every time you see them, they're still in the same place over and over again. They're trying to get to where they want to go. And then you got that other person that seems to have it figured out. No matter what they do, they figure it out. They got the Midas touch, and no matter what they go after, it tends to turn to gold. And what do you typically find as common characteristics in those two individuals?
So I will tell you, it is the same thing, and it is either the presence or the lack thereof of the same thing, right?
Yep.
And I'll tell you a funny story. I had not been an agent very long, and I joined a group called Craig Wiggins Coaching, and I think I got an inner circle.
Yeah, no, Craig's awesome.
I can't remember how I got there, but anyway, I ended up in Huntsville, Alabama at a conference with a bunch of agents that were way bigger than I was going to be. And Craig was talking, and I have the book somewhere, and I'm going to save my language for the call. But he was talking about action, action, action. And I wrote in big letters, I took up the whole page, be a blank gunslinger, because that's my world. That's my language, being a gunslinger. And what I mean by that, and what that means to me, is like people who take action and go. We'll worry about the repercussions later, but we got to do something now. We got to make a decision. And a lot of times, man, when you think about a gunslinger, you better shoot or get shot, right? But a lot of times what I see with agents that struggle or don't struggle is the presence of action. And so it's like, we all know pretty much what we need to do. There may be some things you need to get help on, right? But sometimes you got to be a gunslinger, pull the trigger, and go, because at least doing something, at least taking some kind of action is better than doing nothing.
Oh, no, 100%. I believe that's like the disease in almost every business. It's not where they need to be, is that inaction where people are stuck in a pace of paralysis, whether it's over-analysis paralysis or whatever it is. It's maybe not a can't do, but a won't do. But then like the cure to that is just coming out there and putting in the work. Like, in not comparing yourself to, because I think a lot of times people will compare themselves to their day to day to somebody's year 10.
Yep.
And it's just overwhelming. How do I ever get to where they need to be? Well, it's the same way they got there. And it was just one day at a time. The slow momentum starts to build and starts to speed. And before you know it, you got that snowball effect where everything's flowing. And then you end up in the flow state where things start to come almost effortlessly.
Yep. Well, and I think it's crazy, how many people can find a million excuses but have no action, right? And it kills me. You can be in a group, and I know you know this, you can be in a group of 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, and the ones that take action will ball out, and the ones that don't are going to come back in a year and like, well, that just didn't work for me, and blah, blah. Okay.
I tried making a book of excuses once and paying my mortgage with it and didn't work out too well. So then I started doing things a little bit differently.
Checks in the mail on those.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, absolutely.
And Cole, when
winners always find a way.
So when you get in a good place, right, and you are taking action, one of the other issues I see is there's some agency owners out there who know how to take the action and they're very good at it. But then they have a really hard time passing that torch to their team members and delegating and trusting in them. Can you talk a little bit about A, have you ever struggled with delegation? And then like B, how would you overcome it today if you were an agent who's watching this, who's like, yeah, I want to do everything myself and I have a really tough time like letting the reins go?
Yeah. So I decided the day I opened my business that I was not going to be the person that does everything. I just made that decision. And if you want to be that person, trust is a big thing, right? But you have to allow people to fail on things you know you would not fail at. And so, like, you may lose a deal here and there. You know, we lost one in the last week with a new person. And I'm like, hey, and I sit him down in my office. I was like, here's the deal. You know, you'll never make that mistake again, will you? He's like, no, I won't. I'm like, exactly. So a lot of people will be like, oh, man, I would have closed that, blah, blah. I look at it as like, man, look at what a great training experience that was. I didn't have to hammer him and gripe at him and be the griper all the time. He messed up, blew up in his face. We fixed it and went on, but we'll never make that mistake again. And so what I would say is you have to decide who you want to be. That's it. But if you decide that I want to do everything, you can't sit back in 15 years and go like, man, I'm tired of working in this business all the time and it just takes everything. You can't gripe about that because you built that. If you say like, hey, I'm going to build something that I can slowly get less and less attention of, I'm going to build all the systems and processes. So basically my job is to pay the water bill and the rest takes care of itself, then you're going to get two completely different products. But the biggest thing is you got to decide what you want and chase it, send it.
And I think that goes into too what we were talking about earlier, right? Where your attention goes, energy flows. And a lot of times people don't have their attention in the right places to, get to that ultimate place they want to be in their business. Like to your point, there's so many people, it's like 15 years straight, still doing the same old and the same old. And then when you get to that place, you don't want to be doing that anymore. There's really not many other options because you've just been in that same place, for the last 15 years. And what I always like to do is get a perspective shift, right? So sometimes you got to take yourself out of the business and look at it and say, hey, what do I really want? Not just from a monetary standpoint, but one of the things that you do well at, which we'll get into our next question, is that, whole work-life balance piece. And I think it's careful how you word work-life balance because a lot of people interpret that as, well, I'm just not going to work as hard so I can go with my family. But I believe it's a little bit different because I believe you can have your cake and eat it too. Like that's when we started to get smarter when we exited our first large insurance agency, realizing that, hey, I was at the front and center of everything and it couldn't really, I could go away a couple weeks here and there, but at the end of the day, it was all on my shoulders. But it was when I started bringing in incredible people that we stayed to highly compensate, like Andy here, like key people inside of our organization that really could come in, operate like entrepreneurs in the business that could come in and get it done. Then you don't need to micromanage. You don't need to babysit because you got real leaders that are running in your business that give you that freedom, that give you that autonomy that I think you can have your cake and eat it too. Because I love to be in the place of the visionary, the creator. So always blocking and tackling for our team. How do we come up with different solutions? How do I come up with new product solutions for the market? That's where Jarvie was born. But had I be just stuck into that, the basic fundamentals of my business, like I'd be shackled and wouldn't be able to work on some of those things. So I'd be curious for you, what was the key when it comes to, allowing you to have your, I guess, definition of freedom when it comes to the, quote unquote, work-life balance in your life?
Oh man, I'm probably not the best person to talk about this because I believe before you can have balance, you have to have imbalance, right?
Yep.
And I think personally, and I may catch some heat for saying this, but I really don't care. If you want to have personal life balance, you're going to have to supercharge your business. That's earned, right? If you're a business owner, right? Personal life balance is earned. It's not something that you just put your name on a building and that's what you get. And so for the first, 2 years of owning my agency, guys, I didn't do anything else but run my agency.
Oh yeah. I think that's given. That's expected in the beginning. You got to put in earn your stripes, right?
And now I still I'm touch and go on that. So my balance is a little different. So I listen to Andy Elliott a lot, and what he does and what I really like is that he does 90-day pushes. He hammers for 90 days, and then he takes like a week off or a couple of days off here and there, right? And it's like, I would rather do that and come in and crunch and get a lot of stuff done really fast.
Yep.
And then take some freedom off, And so those are kind of the ways I do it. I feel like balance is earned. It's not something that's just given, and it's not necessarily deserved, right? But also, I just enjoy working.
No, likewise.
Yeah, I don't really.
And I think there's something to be said about that too, because like people say to me, Dave, well, you're always working this and that, and it's really not that, because I've learned to find the things to work at and stay in that lane more often than not. I think as business owners, we always got to get out of that lane sometimes, and we got fires to put out, whatever it might be. But I try to live in a lane where I thrive the most, where it doesn't feel like work. And it's your point. That didn't happen overnight. That came with time. That came with a lot of grit. That came with a lot of hustle, but a lot of investing into myself and a lot of self-development, because I think if you can really learn how to wield the sword, the entrepreneurial sword, so to speak, a lot of the things that people struggle with start to become easy, right? Just like anything in life, you put enough hours into something that it starts to become effortless. And I think if you put your time and attention and try to get the knowledge in the right areas that allow the right things to become effortless, now it's the very thing that took that freedom away from you can actually give you that freedom, because you got the right knowledge in the right places that allow you to operate in that place where work doesn't feel like work. But I think the problem is sometimes people just don't get clear on that with their intentions. And, there was like an epiphany, an aha moment, it was when we sold our company and we wanted to do things differently. How do we do things differently now so we can do more, we can scale more, and do more of the things that we love? And by just having that intention and putting the energy in those areas, that, really allowed us to kind of build that life by design, I guess that they call it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really similar to, if you were to build a house, you build your dream house, right?
Yeah.
When you get done, you're going to go, I thought I'd like this, but I really hate this, or I'd do this different. So you build your second house, like, okay, we don't like this. By the third, fourth house, you're like, okay, I got exactly what I want. And so your business is kind of that way, because you can shape and mold your business as you go. You don't have to go start a new business. You can just say, and this sounds, bad, but you could, like I said, be a gunslinger and say, I don't like where my business is at. I'm going to cut everyone in here and I'm going to start over. I don't like my culture. I don't like my people. I don't like where we're headed. And it may take some balls to do it. It may take some, setbacks to do it. But if you're really serious about changing and molding and maybe your agency 2.0 coming out, you have to take some massive action to get there. So I think it's, to your point, you definitely evolve mentally, but it takes a lot of guts to go and do it physically.
No, absolutely. And I think, I've always been a big fan of, or a big believer that, anytime like that evolution, it's usually not coming from a what or a how, or, a lot of times it's a who moment in life when it comes to, personal development and getting it to the next level. I'm a big fan of finding mentors, finding people you can collaborate with in your industry that are doing some of the things you're looking to do, opposite strengths and weaknesses. Tell us a little bit about how you, operate in the lens of personal development for your own personal development. So you're always in a place where you're stretching yourself and always in that place of growth.
Yeah. So, man, most of the people that I am like close with are better than I will ever be. And I'll do a big shout out with Josiah Hartley, Michael Weaver, and Justin Slocum. All right. I would say I'm very close with them. They may not say that about me, but I feel that I'm close to them, right?
Oh, love it.
And they're all three just super impressive humans who I will never be, but I'm chasing becoming like them, right? And Dave, you too. I look up a lot to you, Dave. I mean, I
appreciate it, brother.
I've talked to you before. I'm like, how'd you do? But my thing is like, I want to reach for more, and in order to reach for more, you're gonna, realistically, you're going to have to talk to some people that have already been where you want to go, right? And so that's what I try to do is like, what did you do? Who did you do? And, you get things like read this book or, I went and listened to this guy or I went to this, and then you start, okay. And so those are things I've done is I've just not been afraid to walk up to somebody and be like, hey, you're balling. Tell me what you're doing.
Yeah.
And chasing it like that. And then a lot of them have built friendships. Mine and Josiah's first conversation went something along the lines of like, hey, listen, dude, I don't want to talk about football. I don't even know any of the Major League Baseball teams, but what I do know is business. And if you want to talk about business, I'll talk to you all day. If you don't, that's okay, but I'm probably not the guy for you. I was like, luckily for you, that's all I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So our friendship was built on that.
No, I'm like the same way too. I don't like a lot of my hobbies are, creating, building businesses. So I'm of the same cloth when it comes to that for sure.
Yeah. I just really, that's what I enjoy doing. It's the chapter of my life that I'm in. It's what I want to do.
And I think there's something to be said about too, because like so many people, there's two different people that go into mentorship, self-development, go to these conferences too. Like you see the same people at the same conferences all the time, talking about the same things. They're going to the dopamine hit, but then that inaction prevents them from being in a place of growth, right? But then you see the people going to the event with a great deal of intention. That's where I got a rule of 3 when I go to events, right? So it's like find 3 people that I can serve, because I believe if you help enough people get to where they want to go in life, you're never going to worry about your destination. Find 3 other people that are on your level that you can collaborate with, because you could have somebody that's trying to get to the same destination. They're strong at XYZ and you're strong at ABC, and you can come together and 1 + 1 = 4, and you guys can double the trajectory you're trying to go. And then find 3 people that are light years ahead of you that you can learn from, that a thing or two about a thing or two, and then implement 3 things that you're learning, right, from either one of those groups. And then you're always in a place where you got the right people around you. You think about it in life, like any important position, from a CEO to a president, or whatever it might be, great general, they have a great cabinet of advisors around them, mentors, so to speak. And then they're out there taking action. And I want to get into what are some of those things that are maybe stopping people from take action, just for a second here, because I think there's so many people, they get the blueprint, but then they're afraid of failure. But it's the afraid of failure of what other people think about them. And what I found is there's great power in just flexing that I don't give an F muscle. And the better that you can do that and really not care about all others things, and then focus on the guy that's in the mirror. How do I not worry about anybody else, but get better than the guy that's in the mirror every single day, fail forward every single day? And yeah, there's going to be naysayers. There's going to be haters. There's going to be people rooting for you to fall, but eventually you fall long enough. Like, how do we all learn how to walk? We fell about 200 freaking times. And then somewhere along the way, our minds got all effed up. And then we stopped and lost sight of that principle that anything else great in life might take a couple hundred falls in order to get our stride going. What do you have to say to some of the people that are out there? Maybe they're in that place. They got some mentors around them. They're going to conferences, but it's like they need that extra edge, and they need to add that that extra degree in that's gonna take them to the next level.
So two parts to that. Number one, you said looking in the mirror. The only person that's paying my mortgage is me, right?
Yeah.
So if I feel like whatever I'm chasing or whatever I'm shooting is good for me, then it's good for me. I really don't give a crap what you think, right? But the other thing is it's action, and it's the not being afraid to be wrong, right? Because honestly, being wrong will teach you way more than being right will ever teach you. So if Dave, you tell me how to do something and this will 10x your business, and I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, he's built $100 million agency, so maybe he knows. And I do it and completely mess it up, but I get some value out of it.
Yep.
Then you're like, well, that wasn't a total flop because I got something. And so I always tell people, like, I don't really look for I don't look for silver bullets or magic cures and all that stuff. I just look for little nuggets in everything that I'm doing.
Yep.
And if you look at all that we're doing and all the people you've talked to or whatever, we're all probably a collective of little things of everybody else that we didn't even realize, right? And so for me, it's just been take action, listen, and apply what works for me and what doesn't work. And I'm not afraid to fail at all. I'm really not, because like I said, every failure is one more failure out of my way, the way I look at it.
Yep.
I took a course, on how to build and run ads and attract mortgage lenders and do all this stuff, right? And by the end of it, I'm like, you know what? All this front stuff is kind of garbage, but all this back stuff is great. And so I transitioned to my own thing, and now I add mortgage lenders with it to my company, to my business as referral partners, and it cost me $0 to do it. But I had to spend some time and some money and some mess ups to say, half of this is not for me. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just not for me. And half of it is perfect for me. This part I really succeed at. Let's just double down on that. And that's what I did. And that's all I've done, David.
No, 100%. I believe in that. And that is, what you said there, the silver bullet. I think there's too many people out there looking the silver bullet. But the good news is you can shift that trajectory ever so slightly to no longer chasing the silver bullet, to get good at dodging bullets, right? Because sometimes, and that just requires getting out there in the line of fire, and then you take enough bullets shot at you, you start to get good at being nimble and dodging and weaving them. I'll tell you, there's so many different companies. Our companies have almost taken a bullet, right? And then we've gotten so good at being able to predict situations and ebb and flow through challenges. It's just like a skilled sailor out in the sea. You put somebody out there in the middle of a hurricane for the first time in a boat, well, they're probably going to capsize and they're probably going to go under. But if you take a really skilled captain that knows the flow of the ocean, right, and he's been doing it for years, there's going to be a pretty high probability that captain's going to know how to navigate those very specific waters. And I think business is the exact same way, but you're never going to learn it until you put yourself into the line of fire and you start taking those bullets at you. And then before you know it, you're dodging them. And, I like to call that's the place where you're like uneffable with, right? Because now it's like you're getting your finances to a place where you're uneffable with, you're like your health, like everything else. I think those same principles really apply to that. And that's where I want to go to the next thing is adapting to change, right? So I think some of the best people out there that are still in business, that are thriving, they're really good at adapting to change. And I think we're in an industry right now, not just from a technological standpoint, but just the environment in the insurance industry has been so volatile. We're just changing, it seems like, every week. What would you say some of the keys to success are being good at adapting to change, and how some of the folks can actually navigate the rough seas that are out there, quote unquote, in the insurance industry today?
Well, I think adaption is 95% of our business, and probably any business with the way the world's going now, let's be honest. But I look at being able to adapt as a luxury, right? Because what's really cool about that is if things are constantly changing that are forcing you to get better or get out, then what a great thing. Because I would rather go through little changes all the time. Like, okay, we're better here. We got to do this. We got to do this, as compared to hammer drops where it's like, okay, we're doing a full 180 starting over from scratch. I would prefer to do little changes. So I embrace change. And a lot of times, if you're captive, for sure, the businesses award you embracing that change, whether through its bonuses or things like that. And so, like, you're telling me you want me to switch to this mindset or to this pattern or chase this, but you're going to triple me up my income on this? Well, why would I not embrace that change,
Yep, 100%.
And so that's, being still is death, in my opinion. The moment you get still is the moment you die. And so I would say being nimble, being moving with the company, at the end of that line, whatever that is, you'll be so in line with what that company's doing that if a change happens, you'll say perfect, and you'll roll it in, and you'll be rewarded, financially pretty heavily for that in most cases, if you can adapt the way they want you to.
No, I love that. Love that.
I chase adaptation. I chase change. In moderation, right?
100%. And as we're kind of shifting towards the end of the show in here too, I know a lot of people, what they're always looking for are some of those tactical things, right? Like some of those things that, hey, if I could walk away with, on the tactical side, whether it's a marketing strategy, whatever it might be, it's a new tool in my agency that allows me to get to the next level, increase production, block and tackle for my team. I'd be curious to the folks that are out there that are looking for tactical advice, like that great lead source, that process when it comes to marketing, working leads, whatever that might be. What are maybe 2 to 3 things that you could share? Ninja, tactical, not a silver bullet. You got to put in the work in anything, but those tactical strategies can really help turbocharge some of the agencies that are out there if they were to implement them the right way?
Yeah. So 2 things, especially if you're going remote, is if you can figure out how to stay open 2 hours longer a day.
Yep.
That adds a full work day each week, which adds another week to your month. I think my math's right. That'd be 10 hours a week. So,
yep.
So let's just say you do it 4 days a week, right? You can add another week to your month, which is an extra 12 weeks a year. So imagine what you do with 3 more months in your year. And if you can't do that, then how do you make up that time on Saturdays, right? Those are things right there. If you're doing the exact same things that you do every single day in the office and you need more results, you can't afford more results, or you can't change anything, then just add time. And when you add time, you add more results by default.
No, absolutely. Love that. Love that.
And the other thing is, I will tell you, is you're going to have to invest in some training. It can be with anybody. And you're going to do some training. We all have. You're like, golly, that was a waste of my time and energy and money. Like, what a joke. But that's part of the game. Not everything's for you. And then I will say this while we're talking about training. Have you all ever heard of this cool thing called YouTube?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's free. And a lot of people put a lot of stuff on there absolutely free. Alex Hormozy does stuff on there all the time. That's who I listen to a lot. And Andy Elliott does stuff all the time on there. And they're like sales gurus. I'm like, maybe they're different industries, but they really apply here. And then, man, the third thing I'll tell you is just, for me, it's just massive action. It really is.
Yep.
Take action and figure it out as you go, rather than saying, I'm going to have analysis paralysis. We've all heard that. And I got to know every single thing about this and every single detail before I do anything, because then you look up and you spent 6 months trying to be an expert at something, but you've never taken any action on it, and you still have to step forward.
Yep.
And it's like, stop. Just if you want to start writing more life insurance, then just start saying, hey, do you have a life insurance policy? And figure it out from there, right? If you want to start hiring more people, what I tell people all the time is carry a wad of business cards in your pocket. That's all they're good for anyway. And if you're on a Saturday at a restaurant and you have a server you really like, just say, hey, look, I'm hiring and we don't work on Saturdays. That's free recruiting right there. That you
100%.
In the places you're already at.
No, absolutely.
That not everything has to cost more money, but you're going to have to take some action, and you're going to have to step up and wear it on your chest and send it.
Yeah. And I think, to your point there, like people saying, well, that didn't work, right? Investing in training and that didn't work. Well, I think when you look at it, if you're investing in the right training, what does the right training look like? Well, other people are doing it and they're getting wins, right? And it's working for them. So the proof is in the pudding. You got the right mentor. And what is the right mentor? I believe that it's somebody that's lived or living in the situation that you've been, because it's really tough to get a good mentor or a good coach that's never been to the rodeo. They've never scaled an insurance agency, never scaled a business successfully. So if you want somebody that's going to help you get to where you want to go, you want somebody who's already been to the destination one. And I think, the second part of it is that philosophy. Well, it didn't work for me. Well, it's probably, it didn't work. Well, it was more of along the lines of you didn't work.
Yep.
It's the same way, like people go to the gym, they buy gym equipment, but what do they usually end up being? They end up being like ugly furniture inside your house. Usually ends up being a membership you never drive to ever again past January. And really, at the end of the day, it wasn't that the gym membership or the gym equipment didn't work. It was the fact that they didn't work and you didn't use it. And now you chalked that up to be a loss. But sometimes I think the most powerful thing that you can do every single day is look into the mirror. And if you're not in the place that you want to be in any aspect of life, just ask yourself the question, like, what do I need to do differently? And then once you have that perspective shift that everything is your fault 100%. And that's what I believe in my world, in my life, that everything, no matter what, is my fault. Even some of the things that appear to be the uncontrollables, because I think indirectly some of the things that are uncontrollable can be controllable to an extent. But when you have that, like, you're in a place of finding solutions, you're in a place of moving forward rather in that excuse lane that really is never going to get you. It's never going to buy you a ticket anywhere.
Yeah, man. I think, number one, the biggest mistake you can make, or the best mistake you can make, is a big mistake, right? But like you said, looking in the mirror and playing the blame game on yourself is the way to go, because, you could say, hey, I had to let an employee go because they walked all over me, and it's their fault. Or you could say, like, you know what, how do I get in a position so that I never let people walk over me again and we don't get here again? You know, what did I do in the past that let them, you know, build this habit, you know, things like that. And so definitely it's 100% blame it on yourself game, and you'll go far that way.
No, 100%. And you know, I think a lot of business, it's, you know, it's not easy, but it's simple when you follow the simple principles, right? So it's like having the right magnet, like building the right business that attracts the right talent, that attracts the right customers, right? And then it's all like puzzle pieces from there. Once I got the right culture and I'm doing the right things as a leader within that culture, protecting it. Now it's finding the right people, but having the right culture to attract the right people is the first part of the game. But there's all these temptations sometimes that, again, it's like a shortcut mentality. I lost somebody, and because I didn't have sustainable hiring process in place, now I need to find somebody quickly. Oh, there's that person with a license, and they know deep down that's probably not the right person, but it fills a temporary pain.
Yep.
You know, I think there's a lot of people that are living in that place, and it doesn't serve them well. So I'm curious to you, you know, what does it look like in your operation, all the way down to the culture, to how you attract great talent that allows that engine, that allows that machine just to flow, I guess, as smoothly as it appears to flow inside of your operation?
Well, appearance is everything, right, Dave? You got to look good to be good, man. But I don't know. So I think at some point, if you're bold enough about who you are for long enough, things attract themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if this is really weird, it's a blessing because I've needed it, if I'm being honest with you guys. But I have just told everybody I'm hiring for so long that I swear to you guys, 2 or 3 times a week, people call my office and say, "Hey, are you guys hiring?" And just out of the blue, call my office. And that has been a weird blessing. I've found, you know, 3 of my last 4 or 5 hires from them calling the office and me not spending any money on like recruiting on them.
No, I love that.
So that is, and then 2, when you build people around you, they're going to go out and impact people in their world. And I am I'm definitely an acquired taste, but I'm a shock your system type human. That's just who I am. It's what I like to do. And so people come in my business and they start changing in their personal lives and things like that. And they're around people like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And then the next thing you know, the people I've recruited become my recruiters by default. And then, you know, other than that, you pay for what you need. As you guys know, you guys live in that world.
Yeah, 100%.
For a living. But a lot of your recruiting can be just from being boldly and being yourself.
No, 100%. I think that's, you know, all the more important reason too, for yourself to keep getting better, because all of the ships will rise with the tide, right? And if you keep getting better, your team's going to keep getting better. And then eventually, I mean, that was the game changer for us in our agency. We hit that plateau at one point, right? And we're like, man, we're stuck. What do we do? And then coincidentally, a couple weeks later, I'm at a conference and I'm seeing a guy there, JJ Watts. He's sitting on stage 10X and he's running the number 1 through 7 Honda dealerships in the entire country. So out of all the Honda dealerships in the world, he's running 7 of them. They all happen to coincidentally rank 1 through 7 from a performance standpoint in the entire country. And that seemed to be pretty profound. So the question got asked to him, what did he attribute to those results to? And he was like, one thing. It's like having a non-compromising culture, coming in there and like painting the picture. This is my business. My name's on the door. What do I want it to look like? And then coming up with the, you know, the code of conduct, the Bible, the 10 commandments, like that, those non-negotiables to live by in the agency. So I went back, or in the business, right? So I went back, did that in mine, and told the team, like, hey, you know, we got to do things differently if we're going to do things differently, right?
Yeah,
we're going to go to a different destination. And put those things into place and told everybody, I know we haven't operated this way before, and we're not going to fire you tomorrow. We got 60 days to get on board with the new way we're going to be doing things. And here's the why behind it. Yep. And then, you know, we did things like positive mental attitude, non-negotiable to work there, you know, live with integrity with everything that you do, find solutions, not problems. Winners always find a way. Winners train every single day. We put all these things into place. We knew that, hey, if somebody exhibited these 10 fundamentals, it would make up like a superhuman employee, like somebody that's going to the next best place in life. And as soon as we started to do that, we had to get rid of some of our best people that end up being the most toxic people. And then with a smaller team, we started doing more. But then we created that magnet that all of a sudden everybody's having so much fun. Everybody's so positive. We're all winning, right? And what does it feel good to do? It's hard work, but winning feels amazing. The last thing you want to do, I'd rather come in, not come in and not work so hard, but then feel like I'm losing every single day. I think that's a much tougher life to have. So we made this like winning environment. And then before you know it, same thing. It was like phones ringing off the hook, social media. I want to work for you. I want to work for you. And then what do great people do? Birds of a feather flock together. A lot of their high performing friends now started intrinsically just coming into the organization and then started doing the same thing. And then that's how you truly got like the secret sauce and you got the magic inside of your operation.
Everything I've heard about Dave Williams, when you guys roll up to a conference, they could take one look at somebody and say, oh, he works for Dave. That is what I've heard about you since before I met you. It's like when Dave's guys rolled up, you knew they were Dave's guys. Like it was. And so I was like, man, I want that to be, I don't know if you know that. I don't know if I ever told you that, but that's something I take.
Oh, thank you, man.
If I bring my staff to an event and, I hadn't gone to any events this year, but we've gone to some small trainings. I want people to, when my staff walks in, they go, that's Cole's people. We can count on them. And I've had some of that feedback and that's, man, what a great compliment is for people to compliment your people, not you as an individual, but
absolutely.
That's a huge compliment.
No, and that's what it's really all about, right? And I think, I believe in life, how you do one thing's how you do everything. So if you lead people to be, to be great in life, they're going to get there. And, we are blessed to have several people branch off, own their own agencies, buy off some of my agencies. Some of them, they're doing life-changing things. And I think that's why we're all on the planet, right? We got to figure it out so we can help other people figure it out. And if enough of us help other people figure it out, that also we empower to help other people figure it out. You think about that. Like over our lifetime, I don't think it's all that difficult to impact 1,000 people. And if you empower 1,000 people that can empower 1,000 people to change your life, like that empower 1,000 people to change their life, that's 1 billion people that you can touch. And that's exactly what Mother Teresa did. And I think a lot of people don't realize that like in your seat that you are today as the entrepreneur, the business owner you are, you got like a Mother Teresa like power that you can reach 1,000, that can reach 1,000, that can reach 1,000. And we're talking about 1 billion lives that could change. That's what's in it for me. That's, it's all about legacy. It's like, how many people can we elevate up? And, imagine in our country, all the things we had today, imagine if like 10% of our country just showed up at the best freaking version of themselves, just trying to help other people show up and helping other people show up. And, where would we be? We wouldn't have the arguments. We wouldn't have the problems. We wouldn't have the division because everybody, like, for the most part, would be freaking winning. Like, and I think that's the thing that's going to make America great again.
Yeah. And I think you have to be, at some point to do that, you have to stop treating people for who they are, but you have to treat them as who they could be.
Yeah. Right?
And so that may be like, I don't like who you are right now, but I know who you could be. So I'm going to treat you as that guy and you will become him by default.
No, I love that. Love that. And as we wrap up here, and before I get into how people can follow you, how people can work with you, because we definitely want to take the opportunity to do that. If you had to leave, it was your last piece of wisdom you had to leave into this world to the people that are listening on this call today, maybe one or two things, life lessons, business lessons, whatever you could leave that would leave people better off. What would those maybe couple things be?
I'll just hit you with one. Your gut gives you vibes for a reason. Trust it and believe in it and just go.
Yeah.
I think that's it, because and that can go to whether it's a marketing strategy, whether it's hiring, whether it's firing, whether it's trust your gut and go. Because 95% of the time when you battle your gut decision and you go against it, you come back to it in 6 months later and go, should have done this in the first place.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So trust your gut and send it.
100%. No, I love that. Love that. And I guess, tell us about how can people find you? How can people follow you? And I guess most importantly, take a couple minutes of what does working with you look like?
Yeah, man. So working with me looks like a lot of different ways right now, honestly. I'm super flexible to get you to your goal, right? And so we can do weekly calls, we can do daily calls, we can do, bi-weekly calls. It's things like that. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn. But coaching is very versatile, and it's not just like, hey, here's a cookie cutter deal. It's like, what's your goal, where we want to get to, and here's what I think it's going to take, and let's sit down and figure that out, And a lot of times, man, I've been lucky that I've had a decent success ratio with the people I worked with. One guy in particular is an Austin agent. I won't say his name, but since we worked together 90 days and his new business premium increased by over 80% in those 90 days.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so almost a complete double in production. And so I'm going to brag for just a second on that, but we met every week for, 3 months and we blew it up. So things like that.
No, absolutely. Absolutely love it. So there you have it, folks. Make sure to reach out, and then what's your tag on social media so they can follow you, or maybe reach out on there too?
Just Cole Caughern. That's it, man.
All right. No, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for having your time on the show today. I know your time's very valuable, and you came in here and just poured into so many different people, dropping knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb, whether people are watching live right now or they're watching the rerun of this. No doubt that you delivered a ton of value today. So thank you so much. And anybody, again, whether you're listening live or you're listening to the rerun, please show Cole some love into the chat here and give him a big thank you for being on our show today. Thank you so much, Cole. Appreciate you. Appreciate our friendship and love what you're doing out there, moving and shaking in the insurance industry. And folks, yes, this has been another episode of Ask the Experts, and we're looking forward to seeing you a week from today at the same time, the Insurance Syndicate Group, the same day, Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we're going to have another incredible expert that comes in and just tries to provide value to all you amazing folks and humans that are watching this call today. So until then, we'll catch you next week.
Thank you, guys.